Parshas Beshalach Shabbos Shira Tov Shin Pei Vav. And I was looking at the calendar. It's just another couple of weeks. I think in 2 weeks already we begin the Arba Parshios. So we're running right along here. And although you might think that spring or summer is coming, anybody who's been outdoors here for this entire week, aside from a snowstorm with ice on, there's icing on the cake, there's ice on top of the snow. We're going to have to try to figure out how to put out crumbs for the birds this Shabbos. Because the birds, last I checked, they don't know how to ice skate. So everything, the surface of everything is snow. It's ice cold, 0 degrees outside. So what better idea than to come in on a Thursday night to bundle up, as you see, we talk bundled up here this week, to come in for a Thursday night, to warm you up with some Torah, and of course on the side, some beautiful 6-course Toyamel over here. And throughout the years, when it comes to this Parsha, there is so much to talk about in the Parsha, but I was trying to look through. It's very difficult to go through 16 years of Shiurim every week, but I try to spot check, go through the last few years. So in this Parsha, we spoke about the Shira, obviously, many different aspects and different angles of the Shira. We spoke about Kriyas Yamsuf. We spoke about the Mon. The Parsha is loaded with so many things to speak about. But the one thing I think that we have not spoken about is the absolute end of the Parsha this week. And we're going to lay what we're going to lay, and that's the Parsha of reading about the Milchama of Amalek. And now we're going to start coming into the theme of the day, being the Milchama of Amalek, because we're going to read it this week, and we're going to read the exact same thing on Purim Day. The Kriya comes from this Parsha. Also, we're going to speak about Amalek, and it's a subject that we talk about throughout the generations, that before Mashiach is going to come, there's this battle that we have to win with Amalek. And let's just look at the pasuk in our parsha. The pasuk tells us, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, kesoiv zoi sikaroim basefer, v'sim beoznei Yeshua." Why? Ki mochoi emche ezecher Amalek vitachas hashamayim. The object, at some point, Amalek needs to be wiped out. Vayomer ki yod al keiska milchamol Hashem ba'Amalek midor dor. Famous psukim that speak about Amalek. The Nesivos Shalom says that the first thing that we really need to understand about this milchama with Amalek, this quote supposed war with Amalek, is that we really have to understand that when we speak about milchamas, when we speak about a war, one of the major wars in the Torah is the milchama of Amalek. In our parsha, it's right up there with the toughest battles. This war, everybody, ask anyone. We have Parsha Zachar also. We speak Amalek, and everything's about Amalek. We know with Haman and Amalek, and with Shaul HaMelech and Agag and the whole thing. He didn't wipe out Amalek. He left something. We're always battling. We're always at war with Amalek. Yet, we talk about Amalek as if they are the ultimate enemy. So the question is, Lamaisa, we don't see anywhere in the Torah that Amalek came to fight Klal Yisrael with a massive army. You know, you look at in the Chumash, in the Seder Devarim, when we talk about Sichain and Moav and all these people that come in with massive armies. We don't see over here in the Torah that Amalek, that the problem was that Amalek came out with a massive army to fight the Bnei Yisrael. Another thing that we do not see about Amalek is that Amalek, we don't see that Amalek was this great kingdom or this great nation. I mean, we all, right, theoretically, we think about this eternal war with this massive enemy, Amalek. We don't find out that they came toward us with a huge army. And we also don't see, as we do with Sichain and Moav later on in the Torah, we don't see that Amalek was this great nation or kingdom. And actually, you look at the Midrashim and you look at the history of the world, Amalek was actually a very low nation. They didn't figure prominently in any kingdoms or land capture as some of the other kings. That Amalek was a very, very low nation. And not only that, but we see that when the Bnei Yisrael did go to war with Amalek, they didn't go out with a huge force. They didn't go out with a huge army either. I mean, imagine, look what the Torah says in our parsha. Vayomer Moshe el Yoshua, b'char lanu anoshim. Choose for us, anoshim, choose for us men, choose for us people who are going to go out to this war. And who are these anoshim? So Chazal tell us these anoshim were, these were chosen people, means these people were tzaddikim. These people were tzaddikim, people who sat, I don't know exactly what they learned those days, but it's before Matan Torah, right? But whatever, these are tzaddikim, people who were going after and doing the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and those are the people who went out to battle Amalek. So they definitely were not sending out any great warriors to go out and fight this battle. So it definitely was not. One thing we see from here is that there was no great army going out. The Bnei Yisrael did not send out their best fighters and warriors to go fight Amalek. And we see from all of this that it was not a conventional war in the way we think of it as warfare of a battle, of a physical battle on the battlefield. Obviously, there's something deeper and something different about this milchama. And we know that it was different because we know how it worked. When Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah tells us, when Moshe Rabbeinu lifted up his hands, and we know the Mishnah, right? Without getting into all of that, but the bottom line is that when Klal Yisrael did the Ratzon of Hashem, which was translated by Moshe Rabbeinu picking up his hands, so they were winning the war. And when the hands of Moshe were down, so the tide would shift toward Amalek. How do we understand all of this? Obviously, not a regular battlefield kind of war. So we have a lot to unpack over here, and let's talk about the Nesivos Shalom, how Nesivos Shalom explains this whole thing. And the Nesivos Shalom explains that what we understand from all of this is that the entire Milchemes Amalek was not a physical war at all. It wasn't a physical war, and that's why you didn't have huge armies going back, fighting, shooting, missiles, this, whatever it is. That's not the type of war that it was. We don't see in the Torah, we don't see account. The Torah usually tells us account of people who were killed in the war. It's not there. There's nothing there in our parsha. How many people were killed, how many people did the Bnei Yisrael killed, it's not even there. So all these things point to the fact, says on Nesivos Shalom, that it was a war of Ruchnius. The war that Amalek wanted to bring to Klal Yisrael was a war of bringing Tumah to Bnei Yisrael. Amalek was fighting that to refrain, to hold back Bnei Yisrael from achieving the Tikkun Gomer. And just we'll get a little bit into Kabbalah now, a little bit into what goes on around us. Nesivos Shalom tells us that the purpose of this world is to attain one thing. Umala Aretz Deya Es Hashem. The purpose of this world is to get to the point where the entire world recognizes HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where the entire world is a Kiddush Hashem. And all 6,000 years that this world was created for, the entire duration of these 6,000 years, every event that happens in history, it moves us closer to that point, to the Zman of Mashiach, to that point where everyone as a unit in the entire world will understand and feel and recognize that the world is only about HaKadosh. It's only about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Although we don't always see it, and we don't always understand it, it's something to keep in mind that as we watch in awe today, as we watch how world events all over us are unfolding, and from every side of the world, wherever it is today, from Iran to Venezuela to Greenland to United States to Eretz Yisrael and Gaza, whatever is happening, the whole world is turning from Russia to Ukraine. There's almost no place in the world that it's not bananas today. So what's going on? Things are turning, things are happening. And if we pay attention and we read the Chazal and we read the Gemaras and all the Mefarshim and then the Tzaddikim that tell us about the Zman of Mashiach coming up, when we see all of that and we look at it through that lens, we realize that the things are falling into place and turning toward one goal, till everything falling into place where it's all going to be, that's all going to be full of one thing, all going to be full of people understanding and the world recognizing that it's all about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And at that time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, says in Nesivos Shalom, there were great steps taken toward that goal. Just imagine within the span of a few weeks, and you had Yetzias Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yamsuf and the Makkah, everything that happened revolving Geulas Mitzrayim. There were giant leaps taken toward this goal of Tikkun Gomor, of everybody realizing the power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything was pointing toward a world of Ein Oid Milvadai. That look what's going on here. Only Hashem can be doing this. If we open our eyes, we could see it in the world current events too. But then it was like obvious to everyone. You see us Mitzrayim. It's amazing what happened right in front of everybody's eyes. So it was headed mamish toward Ein Oid Milvadai, and that would be attained, after you teach Mitzrayim, shortly thereafter, Kabbalas HaTorah. Once Kabbalas HaTorah would come, it would mamish be a tremendous move toward that tikkun. And it was exactly at that time that we see that Amalek showed up. Amalek showed up on the scene to fight in Ruchnius against Klal Yisrael, attaining and learning that lesson, attaining that level of Kiddush Hashem, of attaining and understanding that level of Ein Oid Milvadai. Amalek knew that once Bnei Yisrael would be Makabel the Torah, which was the final scene in that whole thing of Geulas Mitzrayim, the Makkos, Geulas Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, and everything there. When Klal Yisrael would be Makabel the Torah, all the forces of the Sitra Achra, all the forces of evil would be banished from the world. As the Pasuk in Zechariah Yud Gimel tells us, V'es Ruach HaTumah Avir Min Haaretz, that when the time comes, as the world moves toward that Ein Oid Milvadai, the Ruach HaTumah is going to leave. And Amalek knew that look how many huge leaps were taken toward Tikkun Gomor, and now Kabbalas HaTorah, that Amalek couldn't take. So they went out to war, a spiritual war with Klal Yisrael, not a physical war, not a war with great armies, not a war with thousands of people being killed, a war of Ruchnius. So the Torah does not tell us about these battles and what the battle plan was and where they attacked from and war casualties. We don't hear about any of those things. And it says in the Nesivos Shalom, it's because it wasn't that type of war. It was a war of Ruchnius. And this is what we need to understand. We have to understand about Amalek that we live now in a time and a generation where, as we mentioned, the world is going crazy around us. Things are happening at breakneck speed. Things are falling apart and coming together at the same time all over the world. And as we get closer to the Tikkun Gomor, the Amaleks of the world are come to fight us stronger because they have an inner fear of what the world is going to look like when Klal Yisrael is on top, what the world is going to look like when everyone realizes that it's run by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So as we reach these new high levels, we're going to have stronger counter attacks by Amalek. Let's take that lesson, let's internalize that lesson, and let us know that the battle is ours to be won against Amalek.